Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I am Karin Wolok, and you are listening to the Rubbing Elbows podcast. And I am here with my co-host and brother. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yariv Wolok. Hi, welcome back, everybody, for another episode. This is always awkward for some reason.
I know, I'm sorry. I always hand it off to you and make it. I don't know why I can't just make it smooth transition. It has to be an awkward introduction. And today I will make an additional awkward introduction for our special guest, Lynn. He is a comedian, actor, and on-air personality. He currently has a Netflix comedy special out. He's got a TV show on BET called Assisted Living. And also he's an on-air personality at Sirius XM radio show called Straight from the Heart. So Naeem, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me. You nailed that.
Oh, I'm so glad. At least I didn't make it awkward like I did to Yariv.
Yeah.
I was like, Yariv, I'll let you introduce yourself. So I want to kick this off with kind of a random question. And this is going to be a little bit of a test to you.
Mm-hmm.
We've known each other. So I'm guessing, I don't know exactly, but I'm thinking probably about 17 years. That's how long we've probably known each other.
I don't know. That's a little long.
It is a little long, but do you remember where we met?
Tell me.
I'm asking.
I don't.
Okay, me neither. So
have we ever officially met?
Yes, we've met a couple times.
Okay, so
that's funny. This is always the best part. We're like, oh, don't know who we met, where we met, or what.
You know, my time in Philly, I call it a bid, you know, because it was like being in jail.
Nice.
So I try to forget a lot of stuff.
That's horrible.
So, you know, I moved to LA going on 14 years. It'll be 14 years in January. And yeah, before that, I was in Philly for 11 years. So, I mean, somewhere in between Temple's campus and South Street, I don't know. It may be at a show. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Pretty good guess.
That actually is probably pretty accurate. I have somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm thinking it might have been the Tower Theater.
Was I performing?
Maybe. Yeah, I think it was. So it was either a Tower Theater when you were performing, or we met somewhere else, and then I saw you performing there.
Okay, because Tower Theater was that was after I was living in LA already.
Oh, well, then that's not it. Because we met, I remember I think I was under the age of 21 when we met. Like I was definitely still in university, and that's why I'm like, all right, whatever. Okay.
Don't turn this into an R. Kelly interview. That sounded real weird. Like, yeah, I was underage when we met.
It's so bad. You're right. That's so true. I'm really sorry. I mean, I was like doing cool stuff at 19.
I was underage. You gave me 3 shots of liquor. Yeah. We were at.
You know what I was about to say?
Pick me up from high school.
Right.
Oh man, that's so terrible. I'm interested in knowing why Philadelphia was a bid. Like, what was so bad?
So Philly was very close to home. It was about an hour and a half from home, but it was like I had never really spent any time there before school, and it was like going across the country. It was so different from where I'm from, and it took some adjusting. Like I felt like all the people there were the same. Everybody was kind of dressed in the same. The style, really? the vernacular, the lingos, all the things that they said was so different from, like, you know, Joan and all. I had never heard any of that stuff before I got there.
I love those words.
Huh?
I love those words though.
Right. That is all you. That is Philly. That's like
very true.
And I didn't. It was just different. And then, you know, when you stay at a place for a while, then you kind of get used to it. And I kind of became an adult. I became a man while I was there. And I had a car, and I kind of just was able to learn the whole city, which is really easy to learn because it's separated by, City Hall basically is like
the center point.
It's the center point, right? So it was easy for me to learn the city. And then I kind of got used to it. And then when I left and then I came back, I remember why I didn't like it in the beginning. I was like, oh yeah, this isn't it. But you know, when you're at a place for long enough, then you kind of used to it and you accept it. But I mean, Philly has some good things about it, but it's just not my
Okay.
flavor. Mhm.
Where are you from initially?
I'm from New Jersey. I'm from North Jersey, Hillside.
Okay,
I'm
gotcha.
about 20 minutes away from Holland Tunnel.
So did you kind of grow up going to New York City like more often?
So not so much.
So not
Not so much. You know,
maybe because you're not like a city guy, like in general.
He's a Jersey boy.
Jerry, we're very prideful people. You know what I'm saying? People that are not from Jersey, they try to say people from North Jersey want to be like New York. People from South Jersey want to be like Philly, and it's not true. I can't speak for South Jersey, but I know North Jersey. Now we are our own. We're very prideful. Yeah, but we're our own people, own personality. We might copy some of the fashion a little bit, but even New York doesn't have the same fashion. The New York City, like people from Harlem, don't dress like people from Brooklyn or Queens. You know,
Sure.
That's
so
true. That's really interesting. I never really thought about that, but I definitely had that assumption that Jersey people, North Jersey people, and South Jersey people.
Can I ask you this question? It's something I'm just kind of came to me right now. I follow a lot of comedians, and they're a good amount from Jersey. What is it about Jersey? Yeah, like even like Joe Rogan's from New Jersey, right? Like that's one of the biggest ones. Joey Diaz, right, is part of. There's actually a lot of comedians that bounced around, but had like their childhood in New Jersey. Is there any relevance to that? You think? You think maybe just because it's near cities? Like, how'd you get into comedy that way?
well, New York is, I guess, supposed to be the mecca of comedy, just
Sure.
like it's the mecca of hip hop and all of that stuff. So, I guess that could be the relation that you're from. Those Joe Rogan, I'm sure he's from North Jersey. If he's from Jersey, I could tell by the way he talks, he can't be from South Jersey, and it's just his whole swag. So I don't know. I guess if you are from North Jersey, you kind of get into the arts. This New York City's right there. You got Broadway and all that stuff, so you can be influenced by that. For me, I don't think my location had anything to do with me doing stand up. And I actually started when I was in college. I was just a huge comedy fan. I was an Eddie Murphy stan. He's like my guy when it comes to influence with comedy. And then when I got to college, I just decided I wanted to just give it a shot. I didn't I didn't know that it would turn out great. I didn't know I would be doing what I'm doing now. It's just something I wanted to try.
How is I'm curious about this because just going off of what you said. So you got to college, and what age did you start, and how did that first time go? Like getting into
That's
comedy?
exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
I
sorry,
swear,
I guess
I
it's
was like, I'm
natural.
just picturing that first time. Like,
So I think I just turned 20 when I started in 1998, which was that was what was that? My June 97, 97,
Been
98.
sophomore, junior.
That was my sophomore year, spring semester of my sophomore year. And there was this guy named Adam. Every time I tell the story, I give Adam. I don't know where Adam is, but I give him a shout out every time I tell the story. He did this talent show called Baptism by Fire, which was like spoken word and hip hop, dirty backpack shit, and that was the only talent show that I really knew about at the time. I didn't even know comedy clubs existed. I didn't know where they were, anything.
wow.
And I saw him one day. I don't remember the exact moment where I said I want to try it, but I saw him one day and I was like, yo, next time you having a show, let me know a month in advance so I can prepare a routine. And he saw me one day. He's like, yo, I'm doing one in a month. So I said, all right. And I started working on a routine. And I went on stage, let me go last. And I had a great set. That was top 5 set to this day because of just, it was the beginning. It was just this feeling of euphoria. It was like I had found my calling. And, I got to stand in there. And the crazy thing about my first stage, everything worked out the way it was supposed to. The first time I was on stage, I did like 20 minutes, which is unheard of. People first time on stage.
I was going to say, I was like, it's probably 5 minutes, maybe.
Right. Right. And if I had done it at a comedy club, I probably would have only done 5 minutes, and I may not have done good enough to want to try it again. So because I had time to just do my thing, and the only thing I was nervous about when I did it was remembering my material, because I had so much stage time on that first time. And I did great. And then, life humbles you really quick, because I was like, I'm the next thing coming. Because every comedian that's huge, they usually talk about their first time on stage. They say it was a disaster. So I'm like, I got it.
That's true.
And
it's like I'm a natural.
I knew nothing about I didn't know that comedians will do the same set over and over again.
Right.
So after that, the Sigmas decided to do a straight comedy show for the students, and anybody else that thought they were funny come perform on the show. And people that were not at the first show, they heard about what I did on that show. So the second show was like, it was just for comedy, and it was packed. D. Lee from the radio station hosted it, and I prepared a whole new set, where I should have just tried to do the same set I did before. I prepared a whole new set, and it just didn't go well. It didn't go well.
What a lesson.
Right. And I quit. I stopped. I didn't perform again for like 6 months. I had no plans on performing again at all. But one of my good friends, he was like, man, just try again for me. And if I had done bad that first time, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Wow.
It took me to do well that first time to know that I had something, so that when I bombed the second time, although it was really hurtful, I had the strength to try one more time, even though it was months and months later. Because it was, if you perform at a comedy club and you do bad, you don't got to see those people again. Like, this was in front of my friends and my fellow students. These people I'm going to see again the next day at the SAC. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so the SAC.
I almost didn't want to go to school the next day, but I went. I pushed through. I went to school, and people was just like, man, I don't even know what to say. Like, they felt bad for me and shit. I was like, nah, I'm good. But I felt terrible.
Who was your friend that told you to do it for them one more time? You said
my first name is Delvon Arrington. He's I've known him probably since I was about 7 or 8 years old. He was a basketball star. He played ball at Florida State, and then he played overseas. But yeah, that was my boy.
It's actually really interesting you say that, because like she was telling you before we started, I do sports primarily. Like, I do Philadelphia Flyers. I interview athletes, and that is totally an athlete's mindset. Is had a bad game, next game it's a whole new game. Get out there and play again, and that's definitely seems to be like the mindset that he applied to you. He's like, dude, just like get out there. You have a better game the next time you play, right? And like you feel like that was kind of a big difference into kind of getting you to go again, just getting in that mindset of like,
it was really all him. It was because he hadn't even seen me perform yet, but he was like, yo, just try again, because he knew I was funny. A lot of people didn't know that I was a funny person, but my friends knew I was funny. I'm pretty.
I don't know why, but that's funny to me.
Well, like, my family,
kind of common, isn't it, for comedians?
Yeah. A lot of us are kind of quiet introverts. So at that time, I was probably a little bit more outspoken than I am now, but I was also going through a phase where I was like really, really to myself, because I was like I had really bad acne in college. So I was dealing with like self-esteem issues and shit. And I also I was living by myself. So it was normal for me to be in silence. And I was just but around my boys, I was still cracking jokes all the time. But to the average person, if I didn't know you, I really didn't say nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just like a comedian, dude. You were talking about, like the insecurities, the isolation. Probably without realizing it, you kind of set yourself up for the recipe of being a comedian, right? Even the bombing in public, right? Like, don't you like kind of have? I'm not a comedian, obviously. I was a lead singer for a little bit, and I definitely screwed up in public. But I feel like you have to get that out of the way, because then you kind of see, like, I would agree, it's a little tougher when you know the people, but then you kind of see like, well, nothing really happened. You know what I mean? Like, you got hurt, but it's more of your ego, And
yeah,
then once
but
you get past that,
it's so wild. Like, I'm like, thinking about like insecurity and like just being able to get like, I don't know if I'd have the courage to like do it again after bombing. You know, like I feel like it takes a lot.
Well,
I don't know. It's a lot of strength.
The next time I performed, which is 6 months later, it was like this little bar and grill in Philly. And I didn't do great, but I got a couple laughs. And then Michael Collier came to Temple for homecoming. Michael Collier's a seasoned veteran comedian. And the lady that was in student activities, I asked her, could I open for him? And she was against it. She was heavily against it. She's like, I need to see some tape on you. And I had to hunt down this guy to get that he taped the first time I got on stage. So I had to hunt him down. I got the tape, gave it to her. And then she was like, all right, well, if he says it's okay, you can go up. So Michael came, I met him. He's like, yeah, you can do some time. And they made me, the student activity lady told me to do 3 minutes. And it was at, what was that? What was your major?
I was communications and broadcasting.
You probably didn't. I can't remember the name of this hall, but it's where I had my anatomy class. Anyway, I went up there and I had a fire 3 minutes. I destroyed that shit.
3 minutes is like nothing.
It's not. But when I said I got to get out of here, the crowd was like, oh, they felt bad.
Oh man.
It off, and then that's when I was like, I'm gonna stick with it. And then there was a guy named Talent, popular New York popular comedian, period. But he was like one of the kings of New York. He hosted the show, and then we had a celebrity basketball game, I think that spring, and he was in the game. And I talked to him. I was like, yo, I did the show with you, whatever. He was like, yo, come do my show up in New York. It's a spot called the Boston Comedy Club. It's no longer open. And I went there one time months later, and I was just coming to just see the room. And he was like, yo, you going on? So I was like, oh shit, I'm going on already. As soon as I got there, and he put me on, and that's what the first time I performed in New York, and I killed it. And then I was like, I got something.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you have to be in like a certain mindset to like go? Because like, you're going up to this comedy club, you're not really expecting to go on, even if you're using repeat material and stuff. Like,
absolutely.
Do you feel like?
Absolutely. Because a lot of times when I go places and somebody asks me if I want to go up and I wasn't planning on going up, even to this day, I'll say no. There's certain places I go and I'm like, I hope they need one because I do want to go up. But if I'm just chilling, most time I'll be like, no. Because it's like there's no mental preparation, but there is mental preparation. Like when I know that I'm working for a weekend, I got shows, there's no mental preparation. I don't have to say, all right, let me light this candle, let me do this, let me get my mind right. I just know that I'm there to perform. But when I'm not expecting to, then my mind is like, and I got to be like, hold up, give me a second.
So what'd you do when Talent asked you?
Well, I wasn't gonna blow that opportunity.
Right.
So I was nervous as fuck, but I went up, I killed it.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. Okay, so fast forward a little bit.
Okay.
What took you over to LA?
Okay, so
you left the coast.
I won this competition for NBC called Stand Up for Diversity. That's a whole other story that I'll tell a story because I'll make it quick.
Dig into it.
If it's a good story, let's hear it.
So I was working for US Air in Philadelphia. I worked on the ramp, I did that so that I can be more accessible with doing shows because I flew for free. So
that's cool. Mm-hmm.
So I kept complaining about my job because when I first started, it was so easy, but then like it became really, really difficult because there was so many flights coming through. By the time I was there 4 years. So by the time like my third year came, it was flights, so many flights. So, I had a girlfriend at the time and I was just always complaining about my job. And she was like, I said, I'm gonna quit it. It was 2016. I said, I'm gonna quit at the end of the year. And I complained so much. She was like, why are you waiting to the end of the year? Just quit. So I was like, all right. So I think after she said that to me, probably like maybe 2 weeks later, a month or less, I quit, and I had a show on Halloween. I told one of my managers, I said, I'm not coming back no more. And I left work and flew straight to Indianapolis for my show. He's like, whatever. I said, no, I'm not coming back no more. But I didn't go to officially resign because I knew it would take them a minute to realize I'm not coming back to work. I wanted to continue to fly free as long as I could. So I still
smart move.
For like another month and a half. But I quit. That was a Friday, I believe. I came back. My girl lived in New York. I drove up to New York on Saturday night or something, Sunday, whatever. And when I quit, I knew I had to start like really hustling and doing the local rooms, you know, so I can make $100 here, $75 here. And there was a show in Brooklyn at this place called Tracks that Will Sylvance hosted. I went there.
I love Will.
Yeah, Will's great. So I went there perform. He wasn't there that night. He called me after the show. He said, how'd it go? I said, it was cool. So he said, are you doing the Stand Up for Diversity joint? I said, no. I said, I told myself I'm not doing any more open call comedy auditions where you get a minute to perform. I'm not doing it because you wait outside all night and you go in there and you stink it up. So he said, no, I'm gonna get you through to the callback round. So I said, all right. So next morning, which is a Tuesday morning, I went and I did the callback round. I had 3 minutes to perform. It was maybe like 15 of us in there, including the people from NBC. I had a great set. They said, we're going to call some people that made it to come do the final New York showcase at Caroline's tonight. Went to have lunch with my mom in Jersey. They called me. I went to do the show that night. I was last on like 10 to 12 comics. I went last, which I did not want to do, but I had 5 minutes. And I had an amazing set. I had the best set. Nobody in there talked to me. It was a bunch of industry in the room. Only one guy gave me his card, and when I reached out to him, he didn't have no rap for me. So I was like, damn. But the final showcase was in LA, and I got invited to do the final showcase. Went to LA. I had number 5 out of 10. I had the 5th spot, the sweet spot, and I destroyed it. I was the climax of the show. I killed it. All the industry wanted to talk to me afterwards.
Wow.
From that, I was able to get a manager. I was able to get an agent. That was 2016. Then 2017, I did Bad Boys of Comedy, and NBC gave me a 1-year holding deal. They gave me $8,500, which was the most I had ever had at that time. And Kevin Hart, he was my friend. He was filming a movie in Australia, and he was going for 2 months. So he said I could house sit. So I had his house from January to March, and I was able to go on auditions in LA and just do all the rooms. And that's when I decided I wanted to move. So I started lining my ducks up. I said, next year I'm moving. And I said, I need this to happen, this to happen. I need to do this. I'm going to get my car, this, that, and other. I lined my ducks up. I manifested it all. In January of 2008, I moved out here. And I've been here ever since.
So really quick, was that like kind of your point where you became doing full-time comedy? Like when you like quit this airline job and just
the moment I mean, you talking 3 days after I quit my job, the biggest opportunity at that time came to me. And if I had not quit my job, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. That's why I was like telling this story, because I stepped out on faith and something happened immediately.
Yeah, it's like you called out to the universe. And it's actually from what I know, right? That's the second time you told us already where somebody kind of stepped up to you and said, like, go for this thing, or like, what are you waiting for? Or like, do it again. Mm-hmm. Do you find that you kind of look out for that stuff now, like in your life, like the way you kind of track your career, or do you feel like you're more measured now?
No, because I don't need anybody to suggest that I do anything at this point. All because I'm heavily influenced by manifestation, the laws of attraction, all of those things, and I live my life by that. So nobody ever has to give me a pep talk to do anything, because I'm believing that I can do it before anyone else does.
I love that. And I don't want to talk about Kevin Hart because I'm sure people do that to you all the time. But from what I understand, he is very much like that as well. I mean, you can ask my sister. I talk about stuff like this, and she definitely does too, right? There absolutely is something to that. Do you find that the people around you also kind of adhere to that mentality? It's something you've adapted over the years, and you're kind of like, this is the mindset of being successful, is like envision what you want. Sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't influenced as far as like reaching goals. I wasn't necessarily influenced by him, but when we first started working together, this was 2001. He had been doing stand-up for 3-4 years, and he was like, I'm going to be big or bigger than Chris Tucker, who was huge at the time because he had Rush Hour. And when he said it, the average person probably like, man, get the fuck out of here. But I believed him. He had done nothing for me to believe it, but he was so confident about it. And I accepted it. I said, all right. And, I've been there to witness him not only be that, but so much bigger. So So for me, the same girlfriend who told me to quit, she introduced me to The Secret. And, she knew where I was in life. And she was just like, just watch this. It wasn't the book. She gave me the DVD. She's like, it's a little cheesy, but just check it out. And at that time, I was ready to receive anything. I was open-minded and I watched it. And it was one of those things that you watch it or you read the book and it's like, if I implement this in my life, the worst can happen is nothing. It's like nothing bad is going to happen.
It's true.
It was one of those things I was like, all right, I'm going to remove certain things from my vocabulary. From that point on, I have never said things like when it rains, it pours. I've never said anything that's going to bring negative energy to me. I leave each day in that day. If I have a bad day, I don't take that. You're never going to hear me say I had a bad week, I had a bad month. I might say I had a bad day, but tomorrow's a new 24. And living like that I believe that is a big part of my financial success. So the thing about manifestation, though, you have to use it in all walks of life, even not just your career, but just like regular stuff. Just like, I want to meet this person. I want to have my kid to be this. I want to be happy. That's the thing that I still have not mastered, because as a comedian, we deal with depression and highs and lows and all that stuff. So that's my only thing that I'm still trying to overcome.
And actually, that was a really thorough answer, because I was going to ask you like what you kind of do on a regular basis to kind of uphold that, right? Because life is a motherfucker, let's be honest, right? And there are things that come up all the time, right? That'll kick you back down. I was actually just giving this girl who lives in the neighborhood some advice, like financial advice. She's trying to better herself. And I kind of wanted to remind her, I was like, you have this energy in you. You feel really good right now. I was like, remember that life will throw things at you to kind of beat that down. So do you have like kind of a routine that you use to kind of like, keep your eye on the prize? Like I know in The Secret, right, there's the dream board. And why is there a dream board, right? It's like keep your focus on what you want. Right.
Like, I don't do. I'm so strong on my manifestation that I don't write things down. I don't do boards. I know. I say this is what I want, and I make sure I do short-term goals. In 3 months, I want this. Does it always happen? No. But usually the things that I said I wanted, I get them at some point. It's like, all right, you can manifest these things, you can have them. But remember, God still controls the timing of it. So yeah, that's what I've learned. My home that I'm in right now, my car, me having a TV show. I said that I would have all of those things at 40, and I didn't. I had the house, I had the car, and then the TV show came later. They still came.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's intense.
Yeah, you gotta. You have to, everybody has his ultimate goal, right? Mm-hmm. That ultimate goal is a ghost. It doesn't really exist, because let's say you say, all right, I want to be, top 5 podcasts or whatever. I want whatever it is you think you want to be, right? Then you get there. It's not like you can be like, all right, I made it. It's done. Now you're going to have a new goal.
Yeah.
So you're going to forever be chasing something that's supposed to be the ultimate. Ultimate means the end, right? Mm-hmm. You're always going to be chasing something. So the most important thing that we do in our life is celebrate the small victories in the journey, because those are the things that give you life. Those are the things that make you excited. You know, I'm a person that never wants to win. I never want to be, I mean, I changed my mind about the money I want, because I want, you know, as a Black man, I want to have financial wealth, and I want to be able to inspire other people and help other people and all that stuff. But I don't want to win a lottery. I don't want to go from the money I have now to 100 million tomorrow, because then I'll be able to buy anything that I want. And part of the thing for me about buying something is saying I want it and then working hard to get it.
Yeah. It's almost like just part of the journey, I think, just experiencing, like, okay, so like you could say that you want to be able to get here with your success, but how you get there and that road, that journey to get there is part of enjoyment too. Even the things that suck, you know, when you look back, you're like, it sucked, but
those are what the stories are about. And if you don't, but the thing is, sometimes when you have this grand goal, this ultimate goal, you don't take the time to appreciate those things because your eye is on this prize that really doesn't exist.
So what happens how do you move that prize? Like, what are you doing regularly to kind of push that along? Like, when you get your show, go ahead.
I no longer have that prize.
Okay.
I know what I want to do right now. What I want to do now may be different next year, the following year. I know one of the bigger things that I want to do right now, but I'm never looking at that as the end all be all, because from that point, I'm going to want something else. So I'm just trying to take things as they come, and, you know, just always move with strategy.
Yeah.
That's how I've gotten to where I am, by strategy. There's a lot of people out here that are extremely talented. You know, they're great at what they do, but they have no strategy. They're just waiting. They're waiting for some big opportunity to fall out of the sky.
It never happens. You have to call out in the universe through your actions a lot of times, right?
And also put yourself in a position to win. You have to be like, all right, if I want to get here, I want to do this. I need to get in front of this person. I need to go here. I need to be around this. Those are the things that people don't think about.
So speaking about the journey, like the process of getting somewhere, I'm curious about like you and like what excites you of all the different things that you do, right? You have your hands in like so many different places and you do all these different things. When you think about something that you were just like, oh my God, I love doing this so much. And it could just be doing stand-up stuff, right? Like, what is that for you?
Creating, like right now, I've been doing stand-up for 23 years. So I get burnt out sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. But after I shot my special, I had to start creating new material. And that creating process, when you try new jokes and you see your time expand and people are liking it, euphoria. There's this feeling like you just look at you like, yo, I'm really good at what I do. And I feel my growth. My writing style when I was younger was, if I thought of something and it made me laugh, I'm going to try that on stage. Now I take things that are not necessarily funny, just things that I'm going through in my life, in my marriage, whatever, and then I make it funny. I'm like, all right, this is pissing me off. Things that piss me off, I'm going to go talk about that on stage because it's going to be relatable. You know?
Wow.
Well, I heard before that all comedy comes from like a dark place. I think that's something Patrice O'Neill said.
Not necessarily, but a lot of the personal stuff. I mean, if you're a dark person, then it's coming from a dark place. But there's a lot of observational comedy that doesn't have to be from a dark place. Fair
enough. I want to ask you a question because I was doing a little bit of research on you prior to this. I was trying to find stuff that wasn't just your stand-up comedy, and I found a story about Cedric the Entertainer. And I actually liked the second half of the story a lot. I forget the name of your friend, so apologies. I should have looked it up prior to this.
The guy that took my place?
Yes. But I really like that story. I guess I'll just to fill in my sister, you know, you were working for Cedric the Entertainer at some point, and you were kind of around his crew, and there was somebody who you didn't like, and you were saying kind of for no real good reason, just something about his energy or whatever it was, something internal. And then you stopped getting booked for shows with Cedric, and then he ended up replacing you. It's just like one of those cosmic, weird karma moments, right?
Right.
But I love what you said about it. I love that you said that you kind of went to him straight up and you're like, hey, I was hating on you, and I want you to know that. And that, almost like you didn't feel right about it. And then you kind of mended that relationship, and it's a really good relationship till today.
Well, I started the relationship because we didn't have one prior to that. I mean, when I look back at it, even that moment where we were at the airport and he came up to, we had just landed. We were at the baggage claim. He came up, he spoke to them. He didn't even acknowledge me. And that bothered me because it was like, motherfucker, you know who I am. Because we're at the same level as my career. You know who I am. And that bothered me. I didn't like the confidence and the swag that he had. And it's so funny because we were talking recently and he was like, it's just something I don't like about it. I said, that's how I felt about you. He was talking about somebody else. And then, we laughed, but he was just a real confident dude. I think the thing that bothered me the most is that it wasn't that he had this confidence or this swag. It was that I felt like he never acknowledged me. And that bothered me because I felt like, you're not too big to not, we're at the same level of our career. You know who I am.
A little arrogant, it feels like, I think.
Yeah, it was just, he was just a person that kind of kept to himself. And a lot of people feel that same way about me. And, there's people that I know who they are, and I don't say anything to them if I feel like they don't know who I am, because I'm never trying to be on no fanboy shit. So, but people usually, like, it's this guy that he has a show on BET too. I saw him at the mall in Atlanta when I was first filming my first season. And I had just seen, he's on Sisters, his name's Anthony. And I just seen the show. So I knew who he was, but I wasn't gonna say anything. He's like, yo, what's up, man? He started talking to me, and then I was real cool. I was cool with him, man. We chopped it up and now we're cool. But I don't know. I know how it is for me. I'm friendly to anyone that notices me, but I'm not an approachable person. I don't look friendly at all because sometimes
you have RBF.
Very much so. So I forget that I'm somewhat of a celebrity. People look at me as more than I look at myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there's some place where I go where people are like, oh man, a lot of people know me. Then there's place I go where people don't know me at all. Like I'm in the airport, stone face. I mean, we got the mask on anyway, but I'm just not, I'm just like in my own little world. And somebody like TSA guy, man, oh man, you funny as hell, man. Oh, thank you, man. Then I try
That's cool.
That type of stuff. But
well, like, do you think like running into Anthony, for example, right at the mall? Like, what if he was also feeling the same way and he was just like, all right, I'm gonna do the stone face because I don't know if Naeem sees me, and you do the same thing.
We would never know each other.
You're like both see each other, you know each other, but you're not talking to each other.
Right, because he doesn't know that I know him, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, he knew of me because I'm a comedian. He was familiar with my stand-up because we were just starting to shoot the show. So he didn't know me from that, but he saw me, pictures of me in the cast. So that's what made him speak to me. But I never expect anybody to know me unless you're like another comedian, then you should know who I am. At least if you're a Black comedian anyway, so that's how I feel.
Let me ask you this. What made you go up to him and kind of admit that you had like a personal thing? And is this like kind of similar to the conversation we we're just having where you're trying to put positive energy at something that, you thought was negative at the time?
No, well, with Malik, we started, I want to say we started speaking as we did this show. Byron Allen has a show called Comics Unleashed, and we were on the episode together. And that's when we probably started talking a little bit. And then from that, I'm like, dude, it's kind of cool. We got cool. And then, there was no shame in my game. I was just like, yo, I want to let you know, I was hating on you, bro. We laughed about it, but I said, just didn't. I just didn't like your energy, and I'm not a hater. I'm so much not a hater that when I do hate, which is very, very seldomly, I have to address it. Hate or jealousy is a natural reaction. We can't control how we feel when we see something. If I see another comedian that booked the part that I wanted, I might feel it immediately. Like, man, I wanted that. I should have had that. Now, what you have to do when you get that, when you feel that way, you have to address it in yourself. You have to check yourself. So there's two things you can do. Either you can let it eat away at you and you can hate that person, or you can say, you know what? There's something else out there for me. This guy deserves it because he got casted for it. And I wish the best for him. And you shake it off and you let it go. But you can't control your natural reaction is a reflex. You can't control how you feel about something when it first happens. You only can control what you do with that energy.
Takes a lot of emotional intelligence to be able to do that.
Right.
A lot of like awareness and emotional control. Well, you have to have the awareness first to know that you're feeling those things, and then how to be able to address it in like kind of a tactical way, I think.
I just wash it out, wash it away. Okay, deep breath, let that go. Something's coming for me, and there's no reason for me to not be happy for this person. And some people can't control that emotion. There's people that are doing huge things, but they want everything. And if one person gets one little crumb, they get mad.
Which is wild because there's definitely enough space for everyone to have success.
Especially now, Black people are working like no time ever before, especially with all the streaming services. And, there's a lot of Black shows and they're doing great.
That's awesome.
So do you find that influences the people that you surround yourself with today? Like, I assume you have like a tighter knit group, like people you trust in, people you want to work with more potentially. Like, did all this affect that?
Well, I keep a really small circle. I'm such a good friend that if someone does me wrong, then I have no problem walking away. It's like a relationship. If you're giving your all to a relationship and you're on top of it and you're doing everything right, and then the person you're with is not reciprocating that energy, it's easier to walk away because like, yo, I was solid. So I treat my friendships like that. And if I call you a friend and I'm doing things for you and you do me wrong, I can wash my hands of it and be done, man. So, but the people that I'm around, the people I'm around, most of the people I do radio with, those guys, but we don't hang out outside of radio really. Me and Spank, we tour together, so we hang out on the weekends. But the other guys, I'm not around them outside of radio. But anybody that's asked me for advice or they want to talk, then I'll try to give them some positive energy and kind of enlighten them on the business and how I move and all of that. But I keep to myself for the most part. And because I do that, a lot of people misunderstand me.
Interesting.
Which I don't give a fuck about anymore.
That's a very good thing.
Your opinion of me is none of my business.
That's so true. It's the art of not giving a F.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not going to curse because obviously we have very young children watching this.
I already cursed.
I know, I'm joking. No, of course not. We don't have children. What'd you say?
I cursed already. So.
All right, no more cursing.
Just believe it. I didn't know.
No, there's no young kids who watch this. It's not even that big of an audience that I care. We have no sponsors. We can say whatever the hell we want. It's not even an issue. I don't know why she's not cursing.
I know. I was actually just joking. I think it's just late for me. It's like 1:30 in the morning here. Cause so I'm in Israel. Yariv's on the East Coast. You're on the West Coast. Like we're all in different time zones.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's crazy. I know they had Wi-Fi in Israel.
Oh my God, it's funny. So I'm gonna ask you like a wrap-up question. Okay. Yariv, can you help me rephrase my wrap-up question?
Okay. So typically at the end, she asked that, it's a pretty good question. So it's you in your current position, what you know now, kind of what we talked about. If you could go back and talk to yourself when you're younger, or let's just say give an advice to somebody who's in similar position that you were in. What is, I guess, maybe the number one or two things that you would focus on to give like advice, like moving forward, if you could kind of take it back a little bit?
You mean like at the beginning of my career?
Your younger self.
Sure.
From what you know now to your younger self.
Let's go back to that point where you were at the working at the airport, right? When things weren't so clear.
I think most of it would be financial stuff, man.
That's what everybody says.
Financial literacy was not something that was taught to me, or we didn't focus on that in my household because my mom was a person that just was perfect. Like she paid lights were never off, food, she did everything the right way.
It's amazing.
So she didn't know that was something that she had to actually teach me because she thought I would just be responsible because I'm her child, I'm assuming. And me having bad credit, I had unestablished credit, and then I had bad credit because of unpaid utility bills. And then when I first started making money, I had to waste money because my credit was shot. So if I wanted something, then I had to either, if I wanted a car, I needed a cosigner, or if I bought a trike and I had this crazy APR, that type of stuff. I would have just been on top of my bills and, that type of thing. I would say that's probably the biggest thing. Career-wise, I don't know. The only thing I would think about is if I hadn't been working with Kevin, I often feel like I may be doing better. I could possibly be doing better now because being in his shadow or under that umbrella is kind of like, yo, you forever looked at as an opener, or, you're not given the same opportunities. You may be not working as hard.
It's really interesting.
Because you know that you got this money coming in with this guy. So, because I saw, Lil Rel, who's somebody that's like in my comedy class, he's killing it right now. And I know that financially he was beneath me. He was, grinding it out, working and all that. But then when the opportunity came, he took off, and now he's really big. He's doing really well. So that could have possibly happened for me too. But you got to trust timing. I don't regret the work that I've done with Kevin. I've seen the world. We've performed on 5 continents. Yeah, only continent we didn't, of course, not Antarctica, and we haven't done South America, but we've performed in Asia, Australia, North America, Europe, and Africa.
Wow.
So
that's what's up.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm very blessed, and I always felt like I've gotten back what I put into my career. So the more I put into it, the more opportunities will come, the more successful I'll be. And part of me feels like I'm just getting started,
Love that.
That's awesome.
It's probably a good place to end with that.
Yeah, that's a journey.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate you taking out the time. I know you have a lot of stuff going on, so it's really awesome for you to do this. And I really, really enjoyed this conversation. I thought it was I don't know, it felt very moving and enlightening. I like that.
Definitely great.
I felt like I talked a lot. You probably didn't even get to all your questions, did you?
No.
I didn't have a list of questions.
Oh, okay.
This is all ad lib, so.
Well, it's also sometimes you kind of never know where the conversation is going to go. And I think that this was a really good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have expected it to go in all these different directions. And I think that was pretty cool,
Cool.
So it's nice to see you again, even though I'm not seeing you in person now. And I will let you know if I'm back in LA, vice versa, if you're in the East Coast or if you happen to pop into Israel.
Well, okay.
Of course.
But in the meantime, I'm gonna give in the meantime, that's like a terrible ending. But I'm not very good at ending these podcasts. Yariv's trying to like teach me. So like I'm gonna try to end this. What did you say?
You gotta just roll with it. Whatever comes out, just be confident.
Yeah. We're gonna do the most awkward. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye.
Well, at least you said it. I mean, that's what's important.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. Yeah. Thank you again.